Hey guys, so welcome to a new Coffee Keyboard video on our playlist on Power Automate, right? So this is where things get a bit more complex, and this is going to be one of the most, I want to say, the most interesting videos of all, like where we'll be dealing with multiple concepts together. Plus, I think that this video will help you understand the overall functionality of Power Automate a bit too well, right? So I'll quickly get to the task of the video, right? So again, we are dealing with Excel stuff only. So still the task of the video remains Excel automation, but now this time we're going to do a mark sheet generation automation, right? So when I say mark sheet generation, what I want to do is generate mark sheets for students automatically, right? So I have two Excel sheets prepared over here. The first one contains our data. So as you can see, our data contains first name, last name, date of birth, student ID, physics, chemistry, and math as subjects, right? So this is all the data that I have, right? And the other thing that is there is our template mark sheet, right? So our template mark sheet looks something like this. Let's add one more email ID just for the sake of it, right? Our template mark sheet looks like this. Mark sheet, we have place to put first name, last name, date of birth, student ID, email ID, age. Now, as you would have seen in our data, we do have most of the variables already present with us. We have first name, last name, date of birth, student ID. So, first name, last name, date of birth, student ID. But age and email ID is something that we lack over here. So, age is something that we'll be computing from the date of birth that we have, and email ID is something that we'll set a formula for, which would be first name dot last name at the rate email.com. All right, something like this. We'll have a standard formula for that. It's the first name plus last name at the rate something. Then we do have our subject marks already over here. So physics, chemistry, math is something that we'll be feeding from the data itself. Then depending on a certain condition, we'll give it pass or fail. Like if it is above 50, we'll give them a pass, or if it is below 50, we'll give them a fail. Or let's say we do 80 for pass. Above 80 is pass, below 80 is fail, right? And then we total up their marks over here. This is what is the scope of this video, right? We'll hit a save over here, and this data remains as it is. So again, read data from Excel, create a copy of the template file, right? We'll be creating a copy of the template file and then adding reports to it. Every report created will be a new worksheet in the same file. Write the data into the template file, compute the age and email now. Check if the status is passed or failed, total up their marks at the end, and that is our whole score. So without wasting any further time, let's just start right into our Power Automate software while we building the flow. So before we directly start building the flow, I want to show you a few concepts or few things that are important so that you understand what and how we are getting data and how we are dealing with the data, right? So the first thing that we'll do is search for Excel in our Actions tab and launch Excel. Now, first thing that we obviously need is our data to come in, right? So we'll open a document. Let's give it the path. Under my YouTube folder, I have data. Let's open data as read only. We do not want to edit this file anyway, so just let's keep it safe. Open as read only. I do not. So what make instance visible does is it does open the Excel sheet itself also. I do not really need the Excel sheet to open right now. Let's just, for the sake of it, I'll open it, and then going ahead, I'll close it. Right? Launch Excel. Then read from Excel worksheet is what we need next. Excel instance. So let's keep our code clean because that is one of the most important aspects. So let's just call this as data Excel, right? From data Excel, we want to read data. So Excel instance is data Excel, and all available data from the worksheet is what we want. Let's get all data in the format of text, and the first line is our column names. So as you can see, the first lines were the column names, right? Variables produces Excel data. That's true. So instead of Excel data, we'll call it student data and hit save. Now I will explain this concept using a display. Let's put a display message box over here. Message box title would be data testing, right? Now that we're in data testing, I want to display, let's begin with the whole student data, right? Let's run this once. What we are to expect to see is the entire data in a display box, right? So here it opens an Excel instance, first name, last name, everything, and from Alice till Jack, we have everything, right? And similarly, in the automate screen, you will be able to see it skips out the column names because that is what we have specified, that the first row is column names. From Alice to Jack, we got everything in our text box. Now the point is that we'll be iterating through this data for sure because we'll be generating certificate for each data. But what we also want to keep in mind is that we have to access each of these values individually as well. So let's say right now from all of the data, I just want to access the first data, right? So I'll go into display message, and because this is a table, I can access that in the form of a matrix. Let's do the 0th position of the table. That is the first row. Let's run this code again. And what we see now is we only display the first row of the table. That is Alice Smith and her grades, right? So Alice Smith and her grades. Now let's say I only required her surname or her name. I just want to display Alice. So that would be something as simple as accessing the 0th position of the 0th row. That is 0 and a 0, right? Let's just display her name for now. I'll decrease this to 1 millisecond so that everything happens faster. Now that you understand what this does, make instance visible, we'll switch that off so it doesn't keep opening a new Excel sheet every time. Right? So you see, it displays only a name. Now let's say if I wanted to access only a surname, that would be 0, 1. Right, let's hit save and let's hit play again. That would only give me her surname, that is Smith. So that this basic logic is clear. Now we can move ahead. We can delete this for now. And now we load our template, which is our template mark sheet. Now what am I planning to do over here is, I have this template mark sheet. I want to create a new workbook, right? I want a new workbook, or let's just use the same workbook. It doesn't really matter. What I want is to add a new workbook over here, and the name would be my first name, right? The name of the worksheet should be my first name or a SAP ID, right? And I want to fill in the data that is over here. So throughout the process, we'll keep this sheet open as we'll be requiring to access the row column values of each cell, right? But let's just first get started with opening the file. So again, we search for Excel, we launch Excel, open following document. Let's specify under YouTube folder we have template mark sheet. Make instance visible, that is not really needed. Open as read only is also not something that we want to take because we want to add data to the same file, template file, right? Now what we want to do is quickly just rename this Excel instance. We want to call it our marksheet Excel, right? Sorry for the typo. So this is going to be our Marksheet Excel, right? Under Marksheet Excel, we want to select cells, or let's just copy cells from Excel worksheet, right? We want to copy all the cells in that worksheet and paste it. That is technically me going over here, selecting all the cells, creating a new sheet and pasting it. This is what we want to do for every user in the data, right? So I'll be deleting this for now. And let's just save it here once, right? So Excel instance, I want Marksheet Excel. I want to do all available values from the worksheet, right? And let's copy them. Now what we want to do is to create a new worksheet, right? But all of this should happen multiple times. So let's just put a loop over here first. Let's search for a loop. Because there are multiple users, we want this to repeat. So for each, you can answer this. For each value in student data, we want the loop to run. Let's call this current student data. Save. Right. So one thing to keep in mind in Automate is if I change something over here, it won't reflect everywhere where the variable is called. So you'll be needing to go ahead and change it everywhere. So it's very important that you create your variable names. While creating your variable names, you keep in mind that it would mostly be permanent until you are willing to go ahead and change it at every step. Right now, we want to create a new worksheet. So again, we go to Excel. The smartest thing to do is search for Excel and then figure out your command. If you don't already remember, that makes your life a lot easier than searching for random entries. So now we want to create a new worksheet. Read, write, get Excel worksheet. So I can see. I can't really find it. But very good. Active cells in worksheet. Okay, let's just search for worksheets if we can't find. Boiling down my search right now. Add a new worksheet. Add a new worksheet to Excel instance Marksheet Excel. The new worksheet name should be, as we discussed, the new worksheet name should be current student data's. What should it be? SAP ID. We want to go ahead with student ID. Let's go ahead with student ID. That would be our 0, 1, 2, 3. Our third entry, position 3 in our current student data. So let's just go ahead and put a 3 over here and add it to the last worksheet. So that is in order. A new worksheet would be added at the very end. Let's hit save. Right. Now what we want to do is we want to start writing values to this Excel worksheet. Right. Oh, before that, we forgot to paste the copied values, right? So let's paste first. Paste cells to Excel worksheet, and here we want to paste cells to Marksheet Excel on specified cell. On currently active cell is where we want to paste, right? And then let's start writing data to this. Okay, so now that we have pasted our cells into a new worksheet, what it technically did was copied all of this and made a new worksheet over here. Now we need to hit save, paste, and we have already given name. Now the next thing to do is start entering values into that sheet. So we have write to Excel worksheet over here. We grab that. We choose our Excel instance, Marksheet Excel. The value to write would be current student data, first name, that is position 0, on specified cell. Now this is where this book starts coming in handy. We need to write on 1, 2, 3, 4, fourth row, fourth column and fourth row. So on column 4 and row 4, we write our first name, right? And similarly, we have last name. Last name would go over here, that is 4 and 5th row. So 4th column and 5th row, we write value to write current student data, and last name is on position 1 on specified cell. Save. We keep doing this for all our things that are already with us. Next would be value to write data Excel, no, current student data, and now on 4 and 7 we have our date of birth. So 4 and 7, and let's see where did we have our date of birth over here. That was on the 2nd position. So on our 2nd position, right? So let's just run this much once and see that if it is doing the expected behavior that is. So we should be expecting 10 worksheets. So add worksheet with the name SID. Let's see what else did it do. I don't see that it did anything. Maybe that is because make instance visible was not ticked. We need this instance to be visible. Right, so it does create the sheets, and right, so it does put in the first name, last name. Let's just compare it. So IV Morris, it did that for SID 8989, right? And it did put in the right date of birth. So we continue doing this for rest of the sheet. So let's just quickly do that. So now that we are done with this, let's open template marksheet once again. Now we need to put in the student ID on 8th. So again, grab this, mark Excel sheet 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 8 as student ID. Save. What is next? The next thing that we have, I think it is our email ID. So email ID is where we need to use a certain logic, right? So let's just quickly put Excel sheet, values to write. So in values to write, we do current student data. Let's just copy this much as we'll be reusing it. So the first name dot last name. So we'll be concatenating here, right? At the rate. Let's just do email.com, right? On what cell? It does give us an alert for invalid value. Let's just see. So, okay. So let's just put a percentage sign over here. And then a dot, and then a percentage at the rate. Then a percentage again over here. And let's see if that is okay. And it goes on the 9th row. So 9th row, save. Right. So that with this data in place, hope that's not a comma that we put. Okay, it's a comma over there. the dot that we needed. Save. Okay, so with this in place, let's get to our next part, which is feeding in the marks. I really want to see if this concatenation works, so let's just quickly run this till one iteration. Let's put a breakpoint over there. Right. So what did it do? I don't see the email ID show up over here. Okay, that's it. Right, my bad. So we'll do a run next action. Fail to write to Excel. See, this is what I was expecting. Everything needs to go into one single percentage symbol. Only then can it run as expected. We get an error in this. Let's just remove over here and put another write to Excel where we want to write the marks of physics on 5,11. So marks of physics go on 5,11 and the marks are on 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, fourth. So current data, fourth position has the marks of physics. Okay, save. Let's just put a breakpoint over here and run this code once again. So what this red breakpoint does is it stops your code from running any further than that. So right, this is what I was expecting, the quotes to show up. So we do not really require the quotes. So that is all that we'll be needing to get rid of. So let's just go over here. So it is exactly what we previously did. Let's just remove the quotes. So a variable would be in percentage and everything else just is directly written as a string, right? So once we have our physics marks in place, let's go ahead and do that for, since I'm doing this multiple times, I'll just create copies. Instead of current 4, I do a 5 and let's just increase the rows. Save. So that's chemistry done, and then we have 6 and there we have our math done. So right now all the things that are given in our data are automatically put over here. Now the computation part for the age is left, right? So now we go into our date thing, date time. Now we do get current date, right? Current date and time, we take system time zone, current date and time. So we'll just take date as we require that only. So current date, as this, there is no time, let's just rename the variable as current date. Let's hit save. And now we want to subtract dates. So before subtracting, we do require to actually add the date to date time. So the date time is current student data and the value would be 0, 1, 2. So the second position, right? So we take the second position. Oh, sorry, this is not get current date time and then we just directly subtract date time. So for subtracting from, we need to subtract from current date time, we need to subtract the student's current student data's second, right? And then the time difference is actually now our age, right? Let's once try displaying the age. Let's put a display block over here and display our age variable, right? Let's hit save and run this once. I really want to see that if we get the right date. So the age that we're expecting to see is 23 years old, right? So I should have a display box, and that is 8296. So it did calculate something, but it wasn't in years. So 8296, I'm assuming, is the number of days. So let's just divide that by 365 once. And that is what exactly I need. Right? So it is giving me back the number of days, which is still fine. So that is one thing that you need to really keep in mind while working on these things, that you need to actually convert date times into, oh, it does specify, right? Variables produce age, get difference in days. So days is the max you can go. So what I need to do is, I need to do a set variable. Set variable, again, age, where the actual value would be now age. And inside this, I divided by 365, right? So now I have my age. Right, the next thing that I want to do is write the value of age. So write to Excel worksheet. And again, let's just, instead of doing this, do a copy paste, right, where everything else is there. And age needs to go on. I'm assuming it is column 4th and 6th. 4th and 6th over here. And instead of this variable, we do age. Save. So that is all the data that we needed to compute already there, right? Now what we want to do is the logical part. Oh, let's just complete with sum as well. Then we'll move on to pass and fail, right? Write to Excel worksheet. Now this would be on, this would be over here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 5 and 4 and 15. Let's just put it over here. So on column 4, row 15, I want to do student data, current student data, which begins, well, from 4 to 6 is what we want to add. So 4 plus, now let's just create a quick copy of this. So physics plus chemistry plus math is what we are looking at. Let's just hit save and Excel worksheet save. So all of the total sum is added. Now what we want to do is, again, now we want to check if the student is passed or failed for those subjects. Let's just do a if block. If current student data, the subjects begin from 4, is greater than or equal to, or is less than 80. 80 is our passing. That is ridiculously high, but yes, 80 is our passing. Okay, so moving ahead, now that we're calculating for physics, what I want to do is, again, write to Excel worksheet, right? So I'll create a copy, put it over here, The value to write would now be, if it is less than 80, it should be fail. And on what cell do I write this? So that would be cell 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 6, 11. So column 11, row 6, and hit save. Is the row really 6? No, the row is 11, column is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, that felt weird writing. Column 6, row 11, right? And then I put a else block. If not this, then what? Then obviously the guy has passed. So else, again, copy paste this and do a pass. Now, this is what the tricky part is that I wanted to tell you. Now, doing the same process, we could technically, what we could do is copy each of these, and just start duplicating them, right? And then just change the rows and column values for everything. But how many subjects? If there were like 10 subjects, you would need 10 if and else blocks. That would be 20 elements plus that would in total be around 50 elements, right? So this is not the smartest way to go around it. What we want to do is create a loop, right? So I create a loop which starts from our position over here, which is in data.excel 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 4 to 5, 6. It should run from variable 4 to 6. Understand this, what I'm trying to do over here. It should run from 4 to 6, right? So let's go back. Starts from 4, end to 6. Cool. Increment by 1. And this is our loop index, right? Now what I do here is I take all of this and put it inside this. And instead of having calling out physics here separately, what I can do is put a variable loop index inside this and remove percentages because it understands that things specified are variable over here, right? Now the logic over here is I already have 4, right? As in my subjects increase, it will increment by a counter of 1. So what I technically need to do is 4 minus 11. That is 11 minus 4, which gives me 7, right? So again, I put my loop index. Loop index plus 7 results in 11. And as and when loop index will increase, it will go to 12 and 13, which is our positions over here. 11, 12, and 13. See, if we really want to reduce lines of code here to make it fast, or you could just simply go around and write the whole thing for each and every subject. But that is what this video is for, to make you understand how all of this could be technically done in a much faster and efficient manner. Loop index plus 7, right? So in just these lines of code, from 26 lines of code, we have completed the logic part as well. So now that our whole thing is completed, let's just go and run this code once, right? There are no breakpoints, nothing, 1 millisecond, and let's just run it once. So it does pass, fail for every subject as expected. Labs for that. And it does some mistake in totaling and right. So the mistake that it is doing in totaling of the marks is that it has read those marks as string and not as integers per se, right? here, although it marks pass, but it is concatenating them as strings. So that is 85 plus 87 plus 91. What we want to do is first convert them to integers before adding. Right? Let's just hit don't save, no, and convert those to integers before adding. Right? Do we have a sum? No, there's no sum. So here is where are we adding those marks? Right, over here we are adding those marks. So before that, let's just convert text to, or let's just try doing one thing. If it works, it works. Excel data, and instead of reading everything as read from Excel worksheet, and instead of everything as text, let's just untick that and let's see what happens. So here we're experimenting. Instead of having 3 more additional steps to convert them, subjects marks, into variables. Okay, so it still does the same thing where it treats them as strings. So we realize that this is not the finest thing that we can do over here. Let's stop this process. Close the books. This is one thing that we should account for, is put a close window, right? We really should put a closed window so that we do not have to go around and close these windows every time while testing. So what I want to do is convert text to number, right? And over here, exactly over here is where I want to do that. So now that you realize, we do not even require this. The reason being that we have a loop going through the texts, through the marks, right? So we put a convert text to number over here, where the text to convert is current student data, and inside that I can put the variable loop index. So let's just put a loop index over there. What I'm doing is, instead of making 3 new conversions, I just have text as number, and then as to a set variable, let's just declare it outside first and call it total marks, and then initialize it with 0. Right? Now what I can do is again do a set variable, or let's just do increment, reducing the lines, increase variable, variable name being total mark, and this has to be increased by text as number, which is our current marks converted to number, right? And then instead of doing this, we simply go over here and write this to Excel. What do we want to write? Instead of all of this, we just put the variable total mark in and hit save. Let's just run it once more and see what happens. What we want to see is the total marks showing up. So now if you see, we have the total marks being put right where it needs to be there. So this is how Power Automate actually simplifies your longest tasks into a few seconds, right? So I hope you enjoyed this video, where let's just compare one data. It's so interesting that we have actually completed this task. We are on Frank Williams. So Frank Williams is 22. Oh, we did not round it off. So it's simple, just round it off to 22, right? Date of birth is in place. SSID is in place. Email is frankwilliams@gmail.com. 88, 91, 80. Pass, correct, because all of them are above 80. And then the total, can we just try totaling it over here, which is the sum of these, is 259 and it correctly did 259. So we have reached the end of this video. I hope you really enjoyed this. A lot of new concepts to learn here, reducing lines of code and accessing each value of the Excel individually. I'll be linking this code down in the description below, this flow, so that you can try it out on your own PC. But till then, thank you. But thank you for enjoying watching this video through.